want to show you guys a clip here. This is also more perfect union. It's about minor league baseball players. This is something I've actually talked about a few different times, and I grant you part of it is because I'm a total sports nerd, and I absolutely love baseball. I'm a huge Seattle Mariners fan, so I accept all of your condolences in advance for the last 2 decades of my baseball life. But we actually are good this year, I think. So we'll see. I might be getting my hopes up a little prematurely. But anyway, the point is, this story kind of hits home for me because I often follow, sports stories and baseball stories. And seeing how minor leaguers are treated when they're not called up to the major leagues is really something. They're exploited by the big leagues. And, I mention it every time that I bring up a sports story. I know that the very top are like extraordinarily overpaid. I really do take issue just as much as anyone at home might with someone making $30 million a year because they're talented at sport. I think that's outrageous. Don't get me wrong here. But I do want to point out that the alternative is the owners and the TV networks making that money. So I would prefer it at least be the athlete that's like somewhat sacrificing their body and that has the talent make that money. But that's a whole different discussion about, labor in sports. The point that matters to me is that it's worth noting that the bottom is always exploited. And this is not different in sports, right? The people working at the stadiums are not paid particularly well. The people who are pouring your beers and making your burgers and hot dogs and bringing you peanuts and Cracker Jacks and cotton candy, they are not paid very well, right? The security, the ushers, the people who take your tickets, all those folks, they're not paid particularly well either. The alcohol enforcement, none of that. They're not paid very well. So it's all rooted in exploitation of the low-wage worker. In this case, those who are actually providing the entertainment are also in many cases undercompensated. Now, when you are in the minor leagues, they actually just signed a new collective bargaining agreement just this last offseason. We almost didn't have baseball this year, as some of you are probably well aware. In that collective bargaining agreement, they raised the minimum wage for major league players to, I believe it was either $700,000 or $725,000 a year. Okay. So when you're on the big league club, that's the wage that you're making for every day that you are called up to the big leagues. But teams it's a little bit complicated and I won't get into the weeds on it. Players have 3 options, 3 years where they can be optioned to the minor leagues, right? Without having to go through waivers where another team can pick you up. Again, I won't get into the weeds. The point is, players can, a number of times throughout their career, be sent down to the minor leagues by their major league team. When they're in the minor leagues, they're not making that minimum wage. They're making very low wages and they're living a pretty low quality life. Okay. So this is More Perfect Union covering how those workers were treated coming out of this new collective bargaining agreement and dealing with the shortened spring training. They'll get into some of these details, but I just want to point out, you guys, even in industries where we think of people as being overcompensated, and I grant you the top athletes are grossly overcompensated, okay? Especially compared to like freaking paramedics and firemen and teachers and grossly overcompensated. I totally agree. But we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that even in those industries, there are people at the bottom who are being exploited for the gain of the wealthiest involved. So this is More Perfect Union talking about how minor league baseball players are exploited.
Baseball season from May to late September, I made $9,800.
Off-season, you're on your own. Part-time seasonal intern. Anybody that becomes a minor league baseball player signs the uniform player contract, and they're all 7 years. They decide where you go, they decide what level you're at to start a given year, and they have pretty much full control. The pay is non-negotiable. Everybody thinks about it as you get paid per month and you get 6 months if you're in a full season team. You're making anywhere from $6,000 for a season to $15,000 for a season if you're in AAA. Minor league camp report is usually first week of March.
You are there all day, every day. You don't have opportunities to go do anything else to make money.
It's pretty much full work day for 2 months where you're not getting paid.
I think spring training is more difficult than the season. Strenuous on your body and just the workload is more. I believe, minor leaguers are more entitled to get paid during spring training than even in the regular season just because of the workload, to be honest. lot of people overlook that minor league baseball players aren't students. We're not in school. We have adult expenses, whether that be rent, car, insurance, whatever else. A lot of players, myself included, have children. I have a 3-year-old daughter, so $9,000 a year. It's kind of tough to support yourself. You have professional athletes, the top 1% of baseball players in the world that are driving Uber and delivering food and, working at Walmart, overnight, when the off season you're supposed to be training to better yourself for the next season.
I've been a strength conditioning coach in the off season. I've done lessons. I've gotten into woodworking and built chairs and sold them on Facebook.
I've given lessons. I coach youth teams back home, and I've delivered food like Uber Eats, DoorDash, Postmates, stuff like that, just to make a couple dollars here and there and get ready to go spend a month where I don't have any income at all. The problem with getting a job is a lot of places won't hire you because you're only home for 4 or 5 months out of the year, and you have to be straight up in the interview process that, hey, I'm not going to be here. So my housing last year, I was living in a townhome garage. So I was on the bottom level living in a garage. It was like 85 square feet, no heat, no air in it. Fast forward to this year, the Diamondbacks did an outstanding job. They put all of us up in apartments, furnished, Wi-Fi, own bedrooms.
It's up to each team. They can make it better for their guys if they wanted to. And teams that are doing it should be commended, and the teams that are continuing not to do it with the writing on the wall, they should be called out.
I think this is the first time that minor leaguers have actually, gotten together and started to create a voice for ourselves, and I think it's huge.
I would like to see guys make a livable salary, and I'd like to see guys make that throughout the year. I mean, I don't think it's too much to ask for the top 2% of professional baseball players to be able to be paid year-round.
The fact that players have to put the bat and glove down because they don't get paid enough is sick. Nobody thinks the minor leaguers are supposed to get paid millions of dollars in the minor leagues. That's why we're in the minor leagues. We're here to develop and get better, and hopefully one day, you're good enough to play in the big leagues, and that's where you get paid like that.
It's a big money industry. I mean, it's there. And so to have an ugly side of it where you have guys that can't see their wives all year because they can't afford to have them out, like, that just doesn't add up.
Just because the season is half the year doesn't mean that our job stops the other half. Getting compensated for us doing our job is what I think we want to see.
So wonderful reporting there. And we actually covered I'm so bad at tracking time, you guys, but months and months ago, I want to say last summer or something, More Perfect Union had covered that push for better housing, and you saw some of the results there from one of the Diamondbacks prospects. So these kinds of efforts do prevail, you guys. They really can make a difference. And I stand in full solidarity with these minor league players. It's really crazy to think, too, in this case, like they kept pointing out, you guys, AAA is the highest minor league level. AAA ball players could be in the major leagues and they wouldn't stand out. They're right there. They're in the top % or 2 of players in the world at this sport, and they're being paid $9,000 for a season. So again, I'm not sitting here and trying to say that all of these guys should be making $40 million a year because they're good at a sport. Okay, I'm really not. I understand that that's ludicrous and ridiculous too. But to have those, they just showed at the end, 24 out of 30, is that what they said, are owned by billionaires or multi-billion dollar corporations. So the alternative is that those individuals and companies get to just scrape more unnecessary, undeserved, unwarranted profits off the labor of these people, right? So and it's also like, it's an area where people, you guys, it's like a huge accomplishment to make it to AAA. Like, for Christ's sake, you have to be a really, really damn good baseball player to make it to AAA. Okay. So it sort of betrays the meritocracy talking points and narrative on our economy, right? That, oh, if you just work hard and you're just talented and good at something, if you have something to offer, you'll make it, you'll be fine. No, these guys get sent up and sent down. They make good money for a week or two, and then they get sent right back down, making $9,000 a season. So the housing thing really does prove these efforts work, and I want to see labor organizers continued this push in all industries and across the country. So shout out to these ball players who are standing up for their own livelihood and their value and valuing themselves and, sort of wielding the power that workers have everywhere. I'd like to see this across all sorts of industries and it clearly is taking place as I would like. So great coverage from More Perfect Union. Sorry to put you guys through a sports story, which might just be a little bit more along my interests than some of the audience, but fantastic coverage there, and I stand in full solidarity with those workers.